It's Thursday night football, and you know what that means. It's time to do a showdown video here on Splash Play, where, of course, as always, I'll walk you through the projections and the ownership projections for tonight's not-so-beautiful-looking Patriots-Jets game. We'll also build lineups via an optimizer, the solver optimizer from ETR. We'll then look at some of the sim data from both the solver and stochastics tools. We'll hand build a lineup, sim that out. Of course, by the end of the video, I'll give you guys three must-play key takeaways here. I said that completely wrong, but three key takeaways here to build unique lineups on this showdown tonight. Let's get into it, starting with the projections. And again, this is an ugly one. It's 16.3 implied points for New England. Jets, 22.3 implied points. So combined, under a 40-point over-under, which is not the prettiest thing that we want to see here for a game. That said, it does give a particular angle that people play. And the main thing to know for showdowns, I always say here, it's not about playing the best players. It's not about playing the best lineups. It's about building the most unique combinations together that represent an angle people aren't going to play. So today, with that low total, with the kind of ugly perception of these teams, if you were to play, let's say, a shootout kind of build, you're probably going to be alone on an island with that. So if you play a lot of defense and kickers tonight, probably going to be less alone on an island. So that's kind of going to keep in mind on here, of course, as we talk about it. But let's get into it. Let's start with Breece Hall, 20.8 implied points here. He's the overall leader today. The projection a little bit more reasonable than it was early in the week last week in that game versus Tennessee. Of course, Breece Hall got there last week, but in a way where I feel like it was a little bit flimsier than people realize. That 30-yard touchdown catch he had, a tremendous play, an awesome play, but also a play that you can't expect to have every week. So seeing Breece Hall here against a New England team that on the year, negative 0.04 EPA per rush allowed to opposing running backs, negative 0.43 EPA per red zone rush allowed to opposing running backs, a negative EPA on RB targets as well, negative 0.06 EPA there. Like Breece Hall, I think is going to be a play that comes up in every lineup tonight, despite the really high salary here. We'll see how it looks, but I think for me, Breece Hall, I'll play him, but I do think there's certainly going to be some reasons to fade him based on that high projection and the fact the matchup might not be that good. Shout out to the chat as well. Appreciate Cats the Legend being here. Appreciate our guy Charles being here. A squirt or not to squirt. Hopefully always a squirt here on Mondays and Thursdays for these showdown videos. And of course, same process tomorrow for the main slate as well. We got Amandre Stevenson at number 3, Garrett Wilson at number 2, so both guys pretty close. Garrett Wilson probably to come up more than Amandre in an optimizer because he projects better at a much lower salary. So if I had to guess right away, you're probably getting a lot of these top 2 Jets. We'll see in a moment. You're getting some Amandre, a little bit less than that. Aaron Rodgers as well. Honestly, pretty steep price tag on him with Garrett Wilson at 10 too. But it makes sense that Garrett Wilson may be a little bit lower. Have not seen the upside days for him so far. The route participation's been there. The overall usage has been there. 100% route participation, I believe. 30% target route run. A little bit less than that. 28.3%. For Garrett Wilson, the usage has been there for him. So he's going to be a popular play at an optimizer. The bad news is that you're not really buying a dip on him. You're kind of buying him on a slate where he's going to be pretty much everywhere. Jacoby Brissett, number 5 overall, so very low projected QBs as well. Playing both QBs today, certainly going to be less owned as a result. The price tag for both, not the prettiest either. Brissett's at 9K, a little more palatable. Brissett on the year, not the best so far. I mean, frankly, EPA-wise, he's been okay. Negative 0.06 EPA per pass, negative 0.02 EPA per dropback. Only a 59% catchable ball rate from Jacoby Brissett, which kind of surprises me because he's also got a very low intended air yards per attempt, a 5.5 intended air yards per attempt. The projection on him is awful, though. This 12.2 projection is pretty bad. But again, just seeing a QB not like to be played, had that low of a projection, it does sort of stand out. Mike Williams, captain for the win. Oh, boy. I mean, that'll be lower owned, I guess. He hasn't done much yet. The routes were up last week. Got to about 34 routes last week, or 34 snaps. So I guess a good sign for Mike Williams coming up from single-digit snaps in week 1, but hard to picture him having that full ceiling there. Frankly, I think I'd play Lazard over Williams, but any play is going to be credible on this slate. Top values right now, according to Stochastic. Of course, you get all this data for yourself. Check the link in the description or get 15% off with the promo code SPLASH at Stochastic. I don't need the sign-up pages, but the cool sign-up page they have in the description is actually pretty nice to see if you want to see different price packages, especially if you're looking for the cheaper stuff, the light packages. They have some cheap stuff this year, in addition to the sims, the high-end sim stuff that I show on stream here. We got Isaiah Davis, top projected value right now. Only a 0.73 projection on him, $200 salary. He hasn't been in the mix that much. Obviously, you've seen Braylon Allen sees a little bit of that workload from Breece Hall. He's the more viable play. But Isaiah Davis technically has a projection on him that has value attached to it. Tyler Conklin, more of a viable value, $2,800 for him. He's playing about 49.5 snaps per game, 24 routes per game, a negative 0.6 EPA per target, 8% target per route run has not been good for him. Actually, Jeremy Ruckert getting targeted more relative to the routes run, though Ruckert playing a lot less, 25% target per route run compared to, again, 8% for Conklin. Conklin of value not being used well at all, though. Matchup against against New England. New England giving up, wow, they only give up a 3% target rate to tight end so far. That's not likely to hold up. That is an extremely exorbitantly low. For comparison's sake, the Jets defense gives up about an 18.5% target rate to tight ends. So for some reason, Patriots shutting down tight ends might just be the matchups, maybe playing a little bit more 12 personnel teams, keeping guys in the block, but that's a very low target rate for a tight end compared to the normal NFL standards. Other values here, you got the same Ruckert here. He's coming in a little behind. I maybe might take a shot on Ruckert. Honestly, the routes are so much lower. He's playing about 1/4 the routes overall of Tyler Conklin. So it's tough, but honestly, Ruckert could outproduce Conklin on one play. Wouldn't be shocking. Tyquan Thornton's been in the mix enough, though certainly not a player you want to trust. He's projecting as a decent value here at 1,600, 3.5 projection on him. Antonio Gibson, a guy who got decent work last week, 3.6 is the salary here, 6.9 projection on him, and an okay value as well. Gibson last week, let's talk about last week. Overall, Gibson so far, 15 snaps, 3.5 routes. How did his snaps move? Gibson, 14 snaps in week 1, 16 in week 2. So not the greatest role compared to Ramondre, who's averaging 50 snaps a game, but Gibson's in the mix enough to take a shot at, especially in builds. We're expecting the Patriots to play from behind, I guess. Mike Williams got a higher ceiling and way lower ownership than Lazard. The usage is not there for Williams at all. In terms of the player that Mike Williams was historically, sure, but you guys, there being multiple people here mentioning Mike Williams makes me think that that might be a play that gets more ownership than it should. But, you know, I get what you guys are going for. I don't see it based off of everything we've seen so far. Lazard and Garrett Wilson basically have one-to-one usage. Mike Williams is not being looked at when he's on the field, and he's not on the field very often. So it's a little bit tough. Getting targeted downfield, but getting 0.5 targets a game so far is not really the show of faith, Mike Williams, where I'd want to make him a big key part of what I'm trying to do. Ownership overall, but again, doesn't mean he can't hit, but just be mindful of that. Breece Hall, 79% ownership overall from 32% expected to captain. So it's a lot of Breece Hall, the crush of work for him. Again, he does get an incredible amount of snaps. They're really actually not as much as you would think, 41.5 snaps per game. I thought that was going to be higher. 41.5 snaps per game, 20 routes per game for Breece Hall. Braylon Allen's up to 14.5 and 8.5 respectively in those two. Interesting to see. So far, Breece Hall, negative 0.2 EPA per rush, negative 0.2 EPA per pass, 22 intended touches a game. Braylon Allen, for comparison, 0.3 EPA per rush, 0.3 EPA per pass, 6.5 intended touches a game. I don't know that Breece is a lock captain like this ownership is going to be. I certainly get the volume case, but the red zone work hasn't been there for Breece much either. Just one red zone intended touch so far, 0.5 inside the 10-yard line so far per game. So it's not like Breece is really, McCaffrey guy historically, James Conner this year, Kyron Williams historically. Like, he's not getting a crush of red zone touches either. This is, I think, a really trappy ownership for Breece Hall at captain. And we'll see what the projections say. Obviously, the projections are going to put him up a little bit more, but the optimizer says more so. The 32% Breece, you're going to benefit from just playing a pass catcher. The shitty part here is you can see at number 2, Garrett Wilson, 57% projected ownership overall, 17% at captain. So you're talking about almost 50% combined expected ownership between the two Jets key pieces. So I don't love Breece at almost 33% ownership, though. That is way too much captain ownership for a guy that is not getting the work I think people are expecting the work to be. Because Stochastic is hyping him on their shows. They don't do the ownership to hype a guy. They would work the other way around. But it's also because they have such a high projection on them. It starts on the projection down, but the two things aren't connected. Aaron Rodgers, 53%, 6% at captain. I would say Rodgers at captain with Wilson and Breece Hall is a way to get a lot lower owned. Certainly don't feel comfortable with Rodgers at captain, but he's only got a 60.8% catchable ball rate. Again, that's not good. Anything beneath like 70%, you're sort of towards the dumpster tier of QB, a little bit more. 6 intended air yards per attempt. 2 deep shots a game for Aaron Rodgers. He is playing like dog shit. Negative 0.27 EPA per rush, which is fine. He's got an old guy coming off Achilles tear. I'm expecting to run too well. But negative 0.09 EPA per pass, negative 0.09 EPA per drop back. When he's pressured, he's given up almost a negative 0.2 EPA, negative 1.99. So basically giving away 2 points every time that he gets pressured. Yeah, Rodgers at captain feels like a dog shit play analytically, but the sort of projection ownership math would lead you to think it's a better play. Basically, when you have two players in the same team, they're going to be playing a bunch. Taking a shot at the captain having production because the entire team gets there, and the QB is the kind of the vessel for all that happening. Usually is a logical play. Rodgers sucks so bad that you kind of have to hold your nose on that one, I think. Jets offense is a tough watch. Of course, I got Robert Griffin III, an expert in the field of these things, but I mean, like the 2-minute offense looks good. I feel like that's the main thing for a lot of these teams this year. We saw it with Kirk Cousins on Monday. The 2-minute offense, these older QBs can still kind of get there, but the issue is the team plays like this kind of slog it out ball in between those sessions of 2-minute, and that's sort of not where you want it to be. But maybe they do that more in this matchup against New England. I don't know. It's just Rodgers. I see it here. I just don't really want to play it based off the SIS numbers, the fantasy points numbers, the Pro Football Reference numbers. Ramondre, number 4 projected owned here, 49%, 11% in captain. Again, the game script where the Patriots basically dominate the ball. And for whatever slights I'm going to give Breece Hall, I'll give compliments to Ramondre. Ramondre not playing, I mean, he's playing well. The team is not setting him up well. He's got a negative 0.03 EPA per rush in large part because of the fact Patriots basically are allowing guys into the backfield on run plays. I believe it's 60% of the time is what I saw. But he's getting 27 to 10 touches a game. That's a lot. He's getting a 37% avoided tackle rate. That's a lot for Ramondre. He's having to basically avoid those tackles because guys are in the backfield. So it's not a good avoided tackle rate in that respect, but it's one where he's still doing his job to keep this afloat. 3.3 yards after contact, 6.5 intended red zone touches a game for Ramondre, including 3.5 inside the 10-yard line. So if they're getting inside, the goal line area, the red zone area, Ramondre is going to get work. I get the logic for him as captain. I think in terms of how I would view things, no, I don't want to say that Ramondre is a better captain than Breece Hall, but I think for a tournament kind of option, like Breece Hall, it makes sense why he's getting all that ownership. But if he's going to have that much ownership, Ramondre, relative to the ownership, I think is a more interesting play. So like 1/3 the captain ownership, about 2/3 of the overall ownership. I prefer Ramondre just to play the fact that the Patriots maybe can stop the Jets, offense a little bit more. But that's a pretty big discrepancy relative to the usage, is what I would say primarily. Jacoby Brissett, number 5. 5.5% captain, 38% overall. If you play the Pats pass game going off, nobody's going to be there is what my guess would be. Kickers might be a little bit low for this game, but 27% for Zerline, 1.3% for his captain ownership. Joey Sly, 23% overall, 2.1% in captain. If you're going to play a kicker, it's probably Zerline. If you're going to play a kicker at captain, it's probably Zerline. And it wouldn't be crazy, I think, for both teams to have a good lineup with both QBs. Like you build one out, you feel like it's good. Maybe it's got, only leaving $100 on the table. You take both QBs out and you put both kickers in and just leave all that salary on the table. I think that wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if both guys are in the flex. And basically play it where you're just looking for kickers to outscore both QBs because it just needs to be them in the red zone or, on their side of the field even 3 times, potentially 4 times to outscore both Rodgers and Brissett. So Zerline and Sly, I'm shocked the ownership is this low. Jets D, also, a little bit owned here, but not crazy. 27% overall, 2% in captain. Patriots D, 23% overall, 2% in captain. A little bit more of a low on play, maybe a little more interesting as a result. Guys under 10%, you got Tyquan Thornton, who again is running some routes. Tyquan last week, I think, lost snaps to Jalen Polk overall. Tyquan went from 38 snaps in week 1 to 31 snaps in week 2. Polk went from 35 to 41. Osborne went from 40 to 51. So Osborne went up. So Thornton down, Osborne up, Polk up. Pop Douglas 39 to 38. Pop basically flat. All right. But Tyquan still in the mix enough to take a shot at in a showdown kind of format. Austin Hooper, a little bit less involved last week than Hunter Henry for sure, but still a player here, I think, at low ownership, $2,400 salary. He can catch a touchdown. The usage for him has not been that great so far in the year. What is he at? 36.5 snaps per game is not bad. 12.5 routes per game, not bad. 0.1 EPA. 20% target per out run. No red zone targets, though. So would like to see him earning a red zone target already to feel more confidence, but Hooper's okay. We talked about Ruckert, Isaiah Davis, I think kind of a flimsy, just value-based play. Hasty, Gibson, nothing too fun here. Corley might not even be active in the game. Pats had 180 yards rushing last week, and Jets have been uncharacteristically bad versus the run. Should make an interesting matchup. Yeah, it's one thing that stood out in the analytics. Again, the Sports Info Solutions data that I use, that and the fantasy points data, which you can get also for 25% off with Spags 25 at fantasypoints.com. I still haven't made an ad for it, but great site to check out as well. Some of the key things you could see there would show you pretty good weakness in run game, as Popinski mentioned there. 0.05 EPA per rush so far allowed by the Jets D. The pass game has also been worse than last year, which is a little bit of a surprise to me, given that the Jets D has been one of the few teams to be kind of sticky in pass defense for multiple years. This year, they're down to just a negative 0.01 EPA per dropback, negative 0.02 EPA per pass, which is basically like flat average in the league. The Jets are not historically a flat average team. They still defend deep balls well. That's been the one thing that's held up. Negative 0.2 EPA there, only a 25% completion rate. But on short throws, they're getting carved up. 78% completion rate, 0.27 EPA. Both teams actually given up a really high completion rate. The New England defense on their side throws under 20 air yards, 80% completion rate. So I think really for me, again, we'll go into the build, we'll see it more. But I think the way that I view it is like playing the pass game here a little bit more appealing than people are going to want to go to today, just because of the fact that both teams have really just given up. Again, a ton of completions. And that's really the main thing you're looking for here. If teams can complete the ball, they're going to have a shot at production. And for two teams that are not the most exciting pass games, I think there's the signs here of there being a little more upside in the pass game. And then maybe Ramondre drives it home in the run game as well. That's to me the way to play it based off of just the concepts right now that we've seen so far, where you're talking about two pass offenses that have a little more production and in the run game flowing more Ramondre's way than Breece Hall's way. That'd be the hope. Let's go to the solver next. It's put up there. Their button, of course. Check out the solver. Link in the description to check them out as well. A great tool. The biggest thing with the solver is that it's an optimizer combined with the sim, as opposed to Stochastic's tool, which is more of an overall like pool builder for you, where it does the work. On the solver, you're hand building stuff, or you can hand build stuff, and then compete your lineups against the field lineups that are generated by ETR/the solver staff. So that's the biggest difference there. Projection wise, though, these are ETR's projections in right now. So they have Breece Hall as captain. They have Breece Hall, 20.4 projection overall. So again, same discrepancy here that we saw in Stochastic. Garrett Wilson, number 2. They have Ramondre ahead of Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers right there, Brissett right there. That's your top 5. Jets D a little bit higher, it seems like, in projection on ETR's data. They don't have ownership in yet, it looks like, so probably not going to have sims in either, would be my guess. Yeah, so we're not going to be able to sim on ETR, but we can build the optimizer lineups here, which is the main thing we want to do anyway. All right, so what we do here is we're going to build 25 lineups. And what this will tell us is basically what the math is going to drive people towards the most. So you can see the optimal lineup right here, 82.99 projection. Breece Hall, a captain. Garrett Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Jets. Antonio Gibson, Tyler Conklin, Jets 5-1s. Are these going to be a lot of Jets 5-1s? It looks like it. So all right, let's scroll all the way down here. And this is the key part. This tells you, again, as I've mentioned multiple times on stream here, when you use the solver or previously Fantasy Cruncher, you see where the projections drive people towards. When you see guys coming up at 100% of lineups where your top 25, where you're not running any variance on it, you're not changing any settings, you're just seeing what the math drives people towards, that tells you by default people are going to get pushed towards more. So for showdowns, it's especially crucial. And here you're seeing tonight 100% Breece Hall, 100% Garrett Wilson. In a showdown, what that usually means to me is if you play only one of these guys, you're getting away from a large portion of the field. So straight away, you'll know that a lot of people tonight are going to combine Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. Your way to get different is going to be apparently, well, let's talk about it. So Aaron Rodgers also in 92% of lineups. So right away, again, and we'll talk about the same thing I saw in the ownership. Now we're getting in the optimizer. And for the record, I don't look at this stuff in advance. I look at the data. I look at the matchup stuff in advance. I don't look at the optimizer because I kind of want to react in real time and tell you guys how I would handle it. I thought looking at the ownership data that Aaron Rodgers at captain would be a savvy play. We're now seeing that Rodgers doesn't come up at captain at all, but we get these guys 100%. So one way to get low owned right away would be to pair Aaron Rodgers at captain with these guys and try to do it that way. The more logical way to get low owned would be to fade one of the guys, or to put in your Mike Williams captain, people like that. I don't, but if you do, your Lazard captain, your Patriots, whatever receiver, they're all kind of dog shit, whatever one you want to put in. Ramondre, Hunter Henry at captain. That's how you decrease the ownership here, because these guys basically are dominating all the ownership here and also dominating the captain ownership. 100% captain ownership split between Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. So these guys come up in every lineup. They come up as captain in every lineup. You got to get rid of one of them or do something else to get low owned. But if you play Breece and Garrett Wilson together, you are going to get duped pretty heavily. 5-1s were the dominant build. 5-1s Jets. So if you go away from that, you're going to do better. Right away, that's too many onslaught builds that also will make you want to favor 5-1 Patriots because people are not going to be there very much. Again, you're playing an outcome that's less likely, but the goal in the showdown is to have a shot to win the most money when everything you're playing goes right. So to me, when you see this happening, you're getting dominant Jets. 96% of these lineups have at least 4 Jets. So that should tell you playing a more balanced build, a more Patriots forward build is going to get you unique. So the Jets do have you a favorite, I think, relative to the matchup. New England's D so far in the year looks a little bit better than the Jets does. I still expect the Jets to be better over the course of a year. But to me, playing the Patriots upset, I think, is a logical move. 3-3 Jets Patriots coming up 4% of the time, but this is crazy. You don't see this too often. 96% of the builds concentrating on 4 builds of 4 players of one team or more. That doesn't happen too often. So it's a very obvious angle to cut away from the field today is the first thing I would say. Check the chat real fast. You're not entering 150 Tyler Conklin captain lineups. I hope you guys all do that. I hope every 150 maxer does that. Getting mostly 3-3 and 4-2 Pats. Yeah, I'm not 4-2 Pats. I mean, it's not coming up here at all. I don't know what projections you'd be using, but it's at least ETRs. That's not anything close to what we're getting. But we'll see what Stochastic does here. Let's go to this tab. So Stochastic's time the sun here. Of course, we're going to do the same build. And what Stochastic does that's different, let's go to the contest generator. It's going to build 10,000 lineups that have to compete against each other 10,000 times. Make sure we got the right slate on. All right. Let's see what it gets. And guys, if you appreciate this video, again, I show up and do the work here. And honestly, I miss doing shows on Wednesdays, but also Wednesdays have been really productive for me in terms of wrapping my head around stuff, watching film, going through all the data. So probably going to keep with no shows on Wednesdays. Besides that, though, shows Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday morning here. So subscribe down below. Again, I bring the same process, the same rigor in terms of data, game theory, and all of that as always. And of course, that's all I can promise you here, just showing you my gambling and the work that I'm trying to do for myself that hopefully will matter for you guys as well. And frankly, I would say relative to other showdown content on there, I have to do the puffing of my chest a little bit here. I've gotten more shit right on every slate than other content I follow out there. And I do try to watch a lot of their stuff to see where I'm at relative to other things, see what other people are doing that might be interesting that I want to try to, lean in on more. But in terms of this stuff, I feel like I've been crushing so far this year. It's not always going to be the case. Maybe today's the day that all goes to shit. But I do think in general, if you follow along with me here for showdowns in particular, and frankly, the main slates have gotten a lot better too. I'm on fire to start the year. I built a 200-point cage match team on stream. What more can I do to prove how good I am at this? Besides winning a lot of money, I guess that would be the helpful thing. So do. Flip the script and attack Pats. Oh, it's how you're building, not the project. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense then. I'm like, because I can't imagine any projection system giving more Patriots right now. Which is why, again, if you're building away from the projections, you got to be mindful of it. Like, it's still not likely going to be a game where, like, New England puts up 40, the Jets put up 0. But it's still a game where, like, if you just play the Patriots dominating the ball more, Ramondre gets their captain, that's the kind of play that could work. Okay, this is weird. So, top ROI lineup right here. Braylon Allen, Antonio Gibson, Breece Hall. Also, I have to make this, I'll make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Just have to shrink it for that other screen. We got Braylon Allen, Antonio Gibson, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Greg Zuerlein, Ramondre is the first team here with the highest ROI. So you're getting low owned with Braylon at captain. You are not fading Breece and Garrett Wilson. So I guess these guys get their production early. Braylon Allen comes in and cleans up everything, would kind of be the assumption here. Both RBs from the Patriots. Weird team. Not a team that I would honestly want to play, but I think the Braylon Allen thing was kind of a 1 week thing personally. I expect Breece to get less production here, and I expect Braylon Allen to not have 20 points. So Braylon Allen at captain, top ROI lineup right now, and I do not like it very much. This Greg Zuerlein one looks a little bit better. Zuerlein, Gibson, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Jets, Ramondre Stevenson. So still a Jets dominant build. You're still getting Gibson and Ramondre together. The Sims seem to like that in the highest ROI lineups a little bit more than I would think. Yeah, I don't know about Zuerlein captain leaving $100 of salary on the table and all kind of playable guys. I would guess that playing the Patriots RBs together gets your ownership down a little bit, but 49.9 salary with a kicker at captain, I think you're going to get duped. So not sure I'm agreeing with that. Yeah, backup RB kicker D is top ROI captain lineups. LOL. I mean, it's mostly typifying that this build hits at a higher rate than you would think it hits, and nobody plays it. Like, you got to keep in mind that ROI is just a reflection of what people are playing, what they're not playing, and how often a thing occurs. So this could win. They don't have a distribution like the Solver Sim does, but this could win, I mean, it has top 10%, 1.1% of the time. It can hit 1.1%, and then the rest of the time just not cash. So it's a low-owned approach, I would think. This one less so. This one I'm not quite as convinced on. Jets D, though. So defense captain does get the ownership a lot. Antonio Gibson, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Patriots, Ramondre. So both defenses here. Think this kind of build will be common. I would personally try to play more into the little more scoring than not, because people will try to basically slates like this, whenever it's sort of obvious what's coming from a mile away, where you have, again, an under 40-point total, people load up on defense. They load up on kickers. They really try to play that outcome more, when really the simpler outcome is just, A, the Patriots win, and you play that outcome more because we're getting so many Jets dominant builds. And B, just playing the pass games, just saying, hey, there's a bare minimum of pass production that occurs here that allows more guys to make the lineup who are part of that. That's the way to do it. But the Sims, I think, will push you more towards defenses and kickers. And obviously, it makes sense with the game total. Hunter Henry, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Jacoby Brissett. Patriots, Tyler Conklin is the fourth highest ROI lineup. And Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Demario Douglas, a.k.a. Pop to his friends. Greg Zuerlein, Jacoby Brissett, and Patriots is number 5. So all these teams using up all the salary. I don't like how that's looking, but okay. I'm going to build a team after we do this. I'll hand build one out, and I guarantee my team's going to have a shitty ROI on it, but I will feel better about it, which is going to be one of those things that is not going to be fun today. Yeah, Drake May with 4 pass catchers will work really well. Maybe in best ball. That's the hope. All right, top ROI overall. Greg Zuerlein at captain has the highest ROI overall. In fact, more than double the next highest ROI, which is Greg Zuerlein at kicker in the flex. So captain Greg Zuerlein, 38% ROI. Greg Zuerlein flex, 15% ROI. You're getting where the Sims are going to push you to from the stochastic. The same thing that we saw on Monday, where there was a lot of Jake Elliott coming up in the Eagles lineups that we had, or I guess every lineup really. And then what ended up making the winning lineup was Younghoe Koo. So could be a night just to play Joey Sly, because you're going to get leverage on a lot of the sim players right away. But it's one of those things to keep in mind, where you look at Greg Zuerlein coming up a lot in the sim. He should be the player you're treating as the more likely and the more binary outcome. But to get low owned is what you want to do for a showdown. You try to play the opposite, and kickers kind of pull from each other. So playing Sly with Zuerlein, playing Sly in lieu of Zuerlein, I think it's probably the move. Bully those projections. That's what I love to do. I love to tell the math. No, you're wrong. But, again, with the Sims, it's sort of a game. I think the hardest part with the Sim stuff, and what took me some adjusting to last year, is like the Sims are just telling you, hey, if everything that happens the way it's supposed to happens, here's the best way to play, or, that's the wrong way to say that. If everything that everybody expects to happen sort of goes the way it's supposed to go, here's the lineups that look the best over the course of all the various things that could occur along the way to that. So your job then is to go, okay, how do I play differently than the things that are reflecting everything that could go along the lines of the expected outcome? So you're playing like fucking Marvel metaverse shit, basically, is how it is. Or multiverse shit, not metaverse. Again, we don't talk about the metaverse. Web3 is dead. But I think that's really sort of the main thing here, is like, you see Zuerlein come up a lot. That makes you know that, hey, Greg Zuerlein's a good play. Then you also know that all the people are going to be playing Greg Zuerlein thinking, oh, Greg Zuerlein's a good play. And that makes you play Joey Sly, even though Joey Sly is not as good of a play. So stupid part of Showdown, but that's basically it. All right, P, I think you're being a little dramatic here. I think you're missing the point of what it is. The Sims are not meant to tell you what's going to happen in real life. It's meant to tell you, here's a bunch of various outcomes that occur throughout games, and this particular one has a very high ROI when it occurs. If you're thinking of Sims in terms of them projecting a thing and saying like, oh, here's this Patriots Jacoby Brissett dominant build, it's not what the projections say, so it's not going to push you there. Like I think you're missing the point, to be honest. But I'm misunderstanding you from what you're saying with your chats. Exposure, stop exposure, guys. So again, you're getting a lot of Zuerlein the flex coming up. Still not pushing to a lot of Zuerlein to captain. But again, the point here, going back to the ROI stuff, they're not pushing you to Zuerlein to captain a ton, but when Zuerlein to captain hits, it's really fucking hitting. So that's sort of the way to view that. Breece Hall, same thing here. A lot of Breece Hall in the flex, 45% exposure in the flex. Ramondre, 45% exposure in the flex as well. Garrett Wilson, 43% in the flex. Patriots D, 42% in the flex. So they are trying to get you the flip there. A little bit less Jets D. No captains coming up a lot. Breece, okay, we talked about Breece, 30% projected ownership here, according to the sim, 40% exposure. So despite Breece Hall being so highly owned, the Sims do think that Breece Hall gets there enough 40% of the time. The ownership projections aren't off. I'm not sure what we're missing each other on here, but I can't keep doing it. Tyler Conklin, he's going to be projected for about 33% exposure, so he's cutting up a good amount. But yeah, Breece at captain, 40% compared to 30% ownership. So I personally, I think I disagree with that. I get the volume for Breece. I get the logic for it in a game where he's the favorite. I think you're walking into a little bit of a trap with Breece, personally. I think that's basically it. What do I consider a good ROI percentage on showdowns? There's really not any such thing. It's more about the directional accuracy of things where for the solver, they say that outright. For stochastic, I don't think they do quite as much. But basically, you're just trying to say that, like, you know, this is what the Sims are saying is like a good angle to go with. A kicker captain is a good angle to go with. So it's your job then to go, well, how do I use that to my advantage? When you see Breece Hall coming up a lot, how do I use that to my advantage? So there's not really an ROI thing. It's just an order of ROI. Like, if the highest ROI build of a captain that nobody's playing is still a good build because it's got a high ROI and nobody's playing it, but it's going to be lower than, let's say, Breece Hall captain ROI. So that's the trade-off there, but you know, there's really not a right answer to it. Kicker captain, I'd rather not play the slate. That's just what happens when you have a 40-point total. Morning Spags, I don't have a laptop or PC. Stochastic Sims usable on an iPhone. I mean, for like uploading lines and such. For uploading, I don't know how you would do that. I'm sure there's some way to do it. You could run the Sims on an optimizer. Like, you could run the single lineup one, which I'll do in a moment here. And that works on mobile. So that might be the best product for you, Dwayne. But I would say, yeah, Hand Builder would be the one. Their lineup generator is also a good one. But if you do use it, use the link in the description, 15% off. And of course, it supports the show here. And guys, if you appreciate this content, again, I'll talk through this stuff with you guys as best I can. I'm going to try to get to the heart of what you're asking. But of course, it's really more about the fact that I do it every day. So support the show and help me keep doing it every day by subscribing down below. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Of course, join button down below for $4.99. If you want to see content like this continue on here, and I give you guys the most honest take here in using the products for real, showing you guys how I use it, how I would say you should use it. That's sort of the goal here. So if you want to see more content like this, please do support the show down below. And let me shrink this one. This is also going to be main slate. All right. The single lineup tool, this one that I'm showing you on screen, would work well on mobile. So that's the one I would say to recommend if you don't have a laptop or PC and want to get in lineups. But I would say if you're trying to like max out tournaments, especially like 150 maxing, I probably wouldn't do that without a laptop or PC personally. All right, so let's build this out. So I personally believe playing a Patriots dominant build is going to look the best. And we can look at those in a second, I guess, and go back. But I want to build this myself. I'm going to build Ramondre here. Ramondre captain. Again, we're playing away from what people expect a little bit more. Breece Hall, I think if I don't put Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson in this lineup, the ROI is going to suffer hugely. If I were to fade one of them, and we did just see New England give up some pretty big production in the Seattle pass game last week. Garrett Wilson, though, has been pretty decent in terms of the usage. Let's go Garrett Wilson for sure. And then I think we got to put Breece in, right? I think even if you play Ramondre captain, you still put in Breece. Let's put in Breece and see what happens here. So we've now used up a lot of salary here. We've got the chalk guys. Ramondre is also pretty pricey. We got to save salary somewhere. I'll go with what I just said. Go Joey Sly. The Sims want you to do Zerline. It's not going to help my ROI on the Sim, but I do think that's what makes me think it right away. Appreciate you, Dwayne. Thank you for the super chat. And yeah, go check it out. I do think this one, if you're trying to do like not a lot of lineups, I think this one will be good for you. The one I'm using on screen. Single lineup generator or single lineup simulator if you want to see it on Stochastic. Lazard, I think, looks okay. Let's see, I do not trust in Braylon Allen at all. I think if you trust in Breece Hall, you shouldn't trust in Braylon Allen. If you trust in Braylon Allen, you shouldn't trust in Breece Hall. As I've said from day one, I don't think they can both get there. They got there last week, but I don't see how that's possible again, to be honest. All right. Jets D, Pats D, maybe? We just say the Patriots get a takeaway. That gets our salary. Our salary is still so fucking high. Okay. Got to leave money on the table here. I think we need a Patriots pass catcher. None of them are viable here. Tyquan Thornton would be viable. That's not enough salary left on the table, I don't think. Let's see, because we are playing a 4-2 Patriots build. Only $100 on the table is not good, though. Your schedule's worth things during a Spags Showdown breakdown. You have to put it on your meeting. You have to put it on your calendar that you have a meeting booked. All right, we got a positive ROI. Fuck it. I would go with this. Ramondre, captain, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Joey Sly, Patriots. So 13% ROI here. We're playing it that none of the pass catchers get there. The entire offense flows to Ramondre, which makes sense given that they're giving him a touch 54% of the time that he's on the field for a snap. So Ramondre, I think this works. Drop Garrett Wilson, put in Hunter Henry. I don't know that I like that as much. I took out Breece. I think Hunter Henry a little trappy, to be honest. I'll play him, but I do think he's a little trappy. But I think the pass production, my most likely, if I were to say what I think is going to happen in the game and not just what are good lineups to put out there, I think that one, see, that made it much worse. That made it substantially worse, negative 38% ROI. Let's go back and look at some good Patriots lineups because I didn't do that and I usually do. And I'll give my 3 takeaways here. One day I would like to get this video to a tight 30 minutes. That day is not today. Let's get New England 5-1 first. All right, so Brissett at captain is the highest ROI lineup. Brissett at captain, Gibson, Garrett Wilson, Hunter Henry, KJ Osborne, Ramondre Stevenson. I got dyslexic for just his name. We got, I guess, technically a quadruple stack with Jacoby Brissett. Pass game production flowing through Henry and Osborne, maybe a little bit more flowing through Gibson and Ramondre. Garrett Wilson as the one bring back, always receiver, star receiver ideally, as your bring back in a 5-1 looks good. You're also leaving 300 on the table, which probably means this gets duped a little bit more than it would think. But that's a build, though. It's kind of what you're pushing towards if you're going with a higher scoring Pats dominant game. Don't think it's the most likely to see Brissett hit that well, but it's there. It's possible for sure. Hunter Henry's number 2. Hunter Henry captain, Breece Hall, Brissett, Patriots D, Ramondre, Tyquan Thornton. So another New England 5-1. Henry at captain. I don't like that one that much, to be honest. This one 48-5. Brissett, Breece Hall, Pop Douglas, KJ Osborne, Pats D, Ramondre. So you're getting everything flowing through Breece Hall. He's your one bring back. He would work in a 5-1 build as well. That's basically it. Let's go to a 4-man for New England. New England 4-man is going to feel a lot better, I think. This one, 49-7 with Ramondre, Gibson, Breece. So much Ramondre and Gibson. Sims really are going to push you to a lot of Ramondre with Gibson in lieu of all the pass catchers. And I think if you were to de-group them, I don't know. It won't be played a lot, but the Sims are going to make people play it more than they probably should. But anyway, Gibson, Breece Hall, Zerline, Brissett, KJ Osborne. It's okay. 49-1, Jets 2-4. Breece Hall. So Breece Hall dominates this game. Greg Zerline kicks in everything that Breece Hall's not getting in. So kind of a fade on Braylon Allen and I guess Garrett Wilson to some extent there. Jacoby Brissett, Patriots D, Ramondre, Tyquan Thornton. I live with this one. 49-1, you're leaving 900 on the table. You're getting different with going to the Patriots 4-2 build. People are going to be playing more Jets dominant ones. You're fading Garrett Wilson. You're also kind of fading the pass game, moving the ball deeply into the red zone, basically saying if it's getting there, it's through Breece Hall. If not, it's Zerline kicking it from 40 or 50. So I think that works. Malachi Corley will double his production. He has every game. Yeah, there you go. That's how pyramid schemes work as well. Ramondre here. This is too much money. I feel like you need a 5-1 with Ramondre that leaves money on the table. What's a good 4-2 with Breece and Garrett Wilson? Let's find that first. Get too distracted by all the various plays. Filter. All right, so let's look at a 4-2 with Breece. So basically the logic in this one, if you were to play, your lineup contains Breece and Garrett Wilson, but you're playing it through a Patriots 4-2. You're basically taking the chalk, but using it in a different way, which is sort of how I would try to play this kind of situations where you have 100% Garrett Wilson, 100% Breece Hall coming up at an optimizer. This is one way to do it. So a 4-2 here favoring the Patriots with Garrett Wilson, Antonio Gibson, Breece Hall, Pop Douglas, Brissett, and the Patriots D, leaving 1,700 on the table. The lineup works. Not the most fun lineup in the world. I kind of would prefer to have both guys in the flex if I could. This one with Pats D, Gibson, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Joey Sly, and Ramondre. So Sims love fading the whole Patriots pass game core. Besides Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's the only one they want to play. Yeah, I think this one is okay. Brees at captain and a 4-2. I just don't know that that's it. Yeah, these 4-2s with Brees and Garrett Wilson are not the most exciting. I would like one with Ramondre, like the one that I built. A Ramondre, Gibson, Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, Patriots D, Tyquan. That's like the one I built. No Joey Sly. This one's got Ramondre, Brees, Garrett Wilson, Sly, Patriots, Tyquan Thornton. That's the one I just built. Okay. That one's got a 61% ROI, it says here. And no dupes. Don't think it's no dupes, but probably not a ton of dupes. There we go. This game is doo-doo, baby. That does sum it up pretty well. All right, 3 takeaways. Unless you guys have any weird captains I didn't get to. Actually, I should show a few more. Let me show just the Patriots captains real fast. I don't want to deprive you guys of anything that might be important. All right. Captain contains, let's say Polk. What does a Polk captain look like? So here are your low-round captains. How valid they are, I don't know, but they're much lower-owned, so just got to think about it today. Jalen Polk, Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, Greg Zuerlein, Hunter Henry, Jacoby Brissett, leaving 200 on the table. That's not enough. Jalen Polk, Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, Greg Zuerlein, Jacoby Brissett, Pats D. That I could live with. You're leaving 3,600 on the table, has a positive ROI. Polk at captain, you're getting the 2 big Jets in, and the kicker. I think that makes sense enough. Osborne captain, sure. KJ Osborne, Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, Jacoby Brissett, Ramondre, Tyquan. Feels like KJ Osborne getting more routes is what's leading to Tyquan getting less routes, so I'm not sure that's a perfect correlation. But you're leaving 1,200 on the table here. It's not bad. Osborne, Rodgers, Brees, Demario Douglas, Garrett Wilson, Brissett. That's fine. Let's keep going through the pass catchers here real fast. Pop Douglas. Doug. All right. Pop Douglas, Braylon Allen, Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, Greg Zuerlein, Ramondre. It's a little bit of a Jets kind of ass-kicking build, I guess. Jets getting nothing going in the pass game besides Garrett Wilson. Only $100 left on the table. I don't think that's it. This one leaves 1,700 on the table with Pop Douglas, Brees Hall, Brissett, Jets D, Pats D, Ramondre. Don't mind that one too much. The builds of the Patriots receivers don't feel bad until you remember that it's Patriots receivers captain. Rodgers captain we have to look at too. I still think that's one way to get the ownership product down a good amount on Brees and Garrett Wilson builds. All right, here's one. Or actually, no, this is the highest ROI ones with these 2, fade Garrett Wilson. So the same thing we talked about. You see 200%, 100% players, you fade one of them. That's what these 2 top lineups are doing with no Garrett Wilson in them. These 2, though, have Brees Hall and Garrett together with Rodgers at captain, Brees Hall, Pop Douglas, Garrett Wilson, Zuerlein, and Conklin. Leaves 1,000 on the table. You're getting a Jets triple with the kicker on top. That could work. It's a Jets 5-1, which will be owned a little bit more than it should. Rodgers, Lazard, Brees, Garrett Wilson, Patriots, Conklin. I don't like Conklin coming along for the ride in a 50K salary build. I think that gets duped a good amount. This one leaves 2K on the table. Fucking Conklin. Get Conklin out of here. Rodgers, Brees, Garrett Wilson, Zuerlein, Osborne, Conklin. So that one I like with the salary. I like the construction of it. Your one receiver coming back is KJ Osborne, which is going to be definitely a low-owned version of that. Hard to love, but it's sort of what it does. You see if the Patriots shadowed Gonzalez. I don't care about that. Could not care less about it. It's more about the overall team EPA. And there's nothing that tells me that I should be worried about the overall team EPA anywhere. All right, guys, 3 takeaways to go into here to build unique lineups. So number 1 would be if you are playing Jets dominant builds, Jets 5-1s, Jets 4-2s, you're going to be with a large portion of the people. So if you do that, make sure you're leaving a lot of salary on the table. Make sure you're building in one player that's unique. Make sure you're doing it without, I don't know, just every player being a guy that people know about. There's sort of the main things to look at. But really, it's really important to note a couple things, but in particular, Jets 5-1, Jets 4-2 going to be duped a lot, or going to be used a lot rather, and it's up to you to find ways to not be duped within those constructs. Same thing, number 2 would be for Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. You don't see it very often, where 2 players come up in every lineup with just the pure math, just the projections of it, and also a captain, they're coming up in every lineup as well. So right away, that tells you if you play only one of Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson, you're going to get away from a lot of the field. Number 2 would be if you try to deviate a captain from Brees Hall or Garrett Wilson, you're also going to be away from a lot of the field. So they're very obvious guys to kind of have as those levers where straight away. Again, my biggest showdown win was last year with the Bengals and Browns game, or I guess, 2 years ago, kill me. But it was over 20K. It was basically putting together builds where noticing that Joe Burrow and T. Higgins kind of naturally came together in every lineup. What I did, my group of lineups I built that night was just split them out right away. Every lineup had either one of Joe Burrow or T. Higgins. And yeah, if the common thing that's expected hits, you're fucked. But when it doesn't hit and it works out, you're then in a much smaller chopper. I think I chopped that one with like 5 people or something. That's sort of how that goes. So maybe to keep in mind there, just a lot of Garrett Wilson, a lot of Breece Hall. It's up to you to figure out how to get unique, knowing that they're going to be basically in every lineup. Third takeaway to get unique, Sims are going to push you toward a lot of Greg Zuerlein. He's obviously a logical play. The game total supports it. Playing Joey Sly and hoping that the Patriots just get in the red zone enough. Playing Patriots D, hoping they get some touchdowns. Those are your ways to kind of lever against Greg Zuerlein a little bit more. So I think Zuerlein, to me, he's not like a projection play. He's not an optimizer play that came up all the time. But Sims were driving him a bunch. So Sim players will play Zuerlein more than expected. Your way to get leverage against them, same as it was on Monday where Jake Elliott came up everywhere. Your way to get leverage against that is to go to the opposite kicker. So that's it. It's a game today of like, if the binary outcome hits, I think you see a dupe of like a lot of Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Greg Zuerlein shit hitting. If I'd imagine that won't be unique. If the Patriots win, there's your shot to win $1 million, your shot to win 100K in the play action, whatever you're playing. That's my guess for today. But guys, if you appreciate this content, please subscribe down below, hit the like button. Of course, I do streams pretty much every day at 11 a.m. And of course, Sundays at 9 a.m. using this process here where I break down data, use real tools that you guys can use for yourself and show it to you all on stream here. So check it out, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your support goes a long way for me. As a sole proprietor here, I'm competing against, again, companies out there. Like, this is what I go against every day, but I just show up and do my work and probably provide you a better edge. A lot of stuff out there, and that's the promise here I can give you basically some what I've shown so far this year. Stochastic, 15% off, link in the description. Promo code SPLASH as well will get you there. Solver, link in the description too. Both these support the show as well, and it's appreciated if you do. And the most direct way to support the show, $4.99. Hit the join button down below. You get your name on the credits, which have been updated now. All the new guys are in. Of course, help me build this up, guys. Really, if all of you guys who watch every video were just a paying member, it'd be a lot easier for me to do this every day and put my whole ass into it and do even more with the channel. That's the reality of things. So your support legitimately does go a long way here for me. So please join down below and you get access to a VIP Discord, premium video from me every Friday where I go game by game through my advanced data and tell you guys what I'm seeing, which has been a pretty big edge lately. You also get to see that same data sheet that I show on stream, and you can have that access for yourself. You want to look through it, pour over it yourself. That's what I promise here. But follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayPod. Gamble responsibly, even though it's always money time. And do some pick'ems. I got some free pick'ems going on Underdog as well. So check that out. Promo code SPLASH. Promo code SPLASH, $1,000 deposit match. And I'll be back tomorrow for the main slate, guys. So, hey, I'll see you guys then. Enjoy your days. And no matter what you're playing tonight, even if it's chalk Jets bullshit, good luck. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.